Hello everyone, my name is Nitsu, and I'm back with another episode of Spoiler Sundays. So this is the time of the week where I take a look at all of the new news and spoilers that happened over in Japan, and, well, talk about them. I am a little bit under the weather this week, which is why I haven't been recording a whole lot, and if I do sound a little bit different in this episode, I do apologize. I'll try the best that I possibly can, considering we have 24 new cards to go over. So let's just dive right in and get on with it. So first up, we have a new version of Renamon. It's not surprised, we already knew there was going to be new support for the Renamon line in this set, and well, here is the Renamon. So it's going to be a two-color Digimon like all of the others, and its line has the alternative Digivolution cost where it could Digivolve for 0 on top of the intended level 2, and on top of that it has a pretty decent on-play ability where until the end of the opponent's turn, 2 of the opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less can't attack, so that's kind of like a very stereotypical blue thing on trying to stunlock the opponent's Digimon. Then on top of that, it has a nice inheritable ability that's doing something very stereotypical to what the Renamon line has been trying to do, interacting with options that cost 2 or more specifically plugins, where when we use an option that costs 2 or more, then we get to gain 1 memory, which is pretty decent. And then on top of that, we did get a brand new level 6 in the form of Kazuhamon. So Kazuhamon is also going to be treated as a Sakuyamon. It's in the same color combination as what we just saw. Then on top of that, it has a nice when Digivolving ability where we get to use a option card that costs 5 or less from our hand for free. Something similar to what Maid Mode was doing. Again, trying to make the use of our options as easy as we could possibly make them. And then her secondary ability feeds into her first ability for utilizing our option cards, where during your turn once per turn, when you use a 2-cost or higher option card, then we get to play 1 Taomon or 1 yellow or blue level 4 or lower Digimon from underneath this Digimon's Digivolution source for free. So it's just doing your stereotypical blue thing on having some source splitting goodness. Next, we have more cards in the Alliance deck to go over. So first up, we have one of the Megas that's going to support the deck in the form of Cherubimon. So this is going to be a 2-color level 6 Digimon in the color combination of green and purple, and he does have a way to be able to allow us to Digivolve him for slightly cheaper on top of any level 5 2-color Digimon that is part green. Then he natively has the Alliance ability, which again is what the whole deck is trying to support, so why not see it here? And on top of that, he even has his own when Digivolving ability, where until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon and one of your level 5 or lower Digimon gains an on-delete ability, where you get to play this Digimon from your trash for free, which is good at being able to maintain a body on the field as often as we possibly can, which is super important for not only just consistent pressure, but based on how the Alliance mechanic wants to work. Next up, we got an option card to go with him in the form of Tainted Heroes. So Tainted Heroes is going to be a 3-costed option card, and we could ignore its color requirements, which it's normally purple, as long as we have a green Digimon or Tamer in play, so it's really trying to support that color combination. And then on top of that, its main ability is doing some good low-level removal, where it's allowing us to delete one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon. Then we get to place this card into the battle area for its secondary main ability of delay to trigger when we need it to, so that way when we do use it, your opponents may choose to trash 1 option card from their hand, or if they don't, then we get to gain 2 memory. So it's pretty interesting, kind of similar to how code cracking worked, except a little bit better because we already gained some initial value off of this card, and its security ability allows us to at least put this card into the battle area, so we could either gain some extra tempo or make the opponent lose one of their more valuable cards. Then continuing on with the Alliance support, next we have Black Rapidmon. So it's no shocker here considering we saw Black Gargamon already, and he's going to Digivolve for 3 on top of a 2-color green Digimon or a Gargamon in its name that's level 4. Then he has the Alliance ability because of course he does, and then at the end of the attack we get to de-Digivolve one of the opponent's Digimon, which is actually pretty decent because we could still be aggressive with this card thanks to the the Alliance ability. Then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable skill for whatever he's going to be digivolving into, where during your turn, once per turn, when another Digimon is suspended by an effect, whether it's the Alliance or you actively suspending the opponent's Digimon down, it doesn't necessarily specify, then this Digimon gains the piercing ability until the end of the turn, which is pretty good at trying to be extra aggressive, ensuring that we're going to be dealing as much damage as we possibly can. And then the Alliance deck has another level 6 Digimon for us to be playing around with in the form of Black Mega Gargamon. So Black Mega Gargamon is going to be the 2-color combination green and black that wants to be the card that wants to be allianced with as a level 6. So he has a nice ability where at the end of the turn, once per turn until the end of the opponent's turn, 2 of your green or black Digimon gain the blocker and reboot ability, so that way our cards could be defensively aggressive. So that's part of why I think he wants to be paired up with another level 6 as the one that we're going to be suspending, because he doesn't have the Alliance ability native, but being able to grant blocker and reboot is just really good at being able to use our Digimon in various different ways. Then he even has a nice secondary all turns ability where once per turn, when another Digimon is suspended, so whether that's us blocking, us attacking, or vice versa, it doesn't necessarily specify, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon, so even with the Alliance ability, and this card being the card we want to alliance with, then we still are able to make a follow-up attack with this card, even though ideally we wanted to alliance with it, but it also has some good defensive applications, just because, again, ideally he's going to be granting himself blocker and reboot. And then another level 6 to coincide with the Alliance deck is going to be Cherubimon. So Cherubimon is going to be yellow and green, as we saw with the Antilamon, and he has the Alliance ability built into himself, and he even has a nice when digivolving and when attacking ability, where one of your opponent's Digimon gains minus 3000 DP for each of your suspended Digimon for the turn, so it's just some good added removal ability that's going to be attached to our Digimon when we're going to be using it, especially in combination with the Alliance mechanic, wanting us to have multiple Digimon on the field, especially suspended, or we're going to be suspending it because of the Alliance ability to be able to make the most out of this type of effect. And then to round out how the deck wants to play and all of the different colors that we have potential access of, we have a card to capitalize on all of that in the form of Heaven's Judgment. So Heaven's Judgment is going to be a 7-costed yellow option card, but as long as we control a green Digimon or green Tamer, then we get to play it ignoring its color requirements, which the Alliance deck is going to be mostly green. So what the card's actually doing is its main ability allows us to activate one of its following effects. It only has one effect each time for each additional color that we have in play. So the more different colors that we have, which the deck is already supporting 4 colors, then we get to use this ability multiple times, which the ability is one of the opponent's Digimon gains minus 6000 DP for the turn. So the more colors we have, the more powerful of a removal effect this has at being able to stack on one big body or machine gun smaller bodies. And then, at worst, its security ability is still going to be some good hard removal, where one of the opponent's Digimon gains minus 12,000 DP for the turn. So again, even in security, it's still going to be the big hard removal card for the deck. Next up, we have Black Seraphimon. So Black Seraphimon is going to be a level 6 black and yellow Digimon. He could digivolve for 1 on top of a Seraphimon, and he has a nice ability that's trying to act as a deterrent for the opponent wanting to attack into our security, where during the opponent's turn, when a card is removed from our security stack, then we get a de-digivolve 1 on one of the opponent's Digimon, so when they're going to be swinging into us, as long as we're going to be losing security, then de-digivolve could be really obnoxious at just trying to anti-tempo the opponent and ruin their overall game plan. The really powerful thing is this is not once per turn, so the more security you lose, the more instances of this ability that you're going to have as long as this card's on the field when they're going to be swinging. Then he has a nice on-delete ability to allow us to recover 1, which is a very stereotypical yellow thing to do, and then for each card in your security stack, one of your opponent's Digimon gains minus 4,000 DP, which is pretty good at some added removal when we're going to be losing this card. So when we do lose this card, we're just going to be gaining a ton of value, and while he's on the field, he's going to be a really good deterrent for the opponent wanting to aggress. Next up, we have some more Gao support. So Gaomon has been something that's slightly been getting some support here and there, and it's kind of interesting to think that in a set labeled alternative beings that, well, him not being an alternative Digimon is getting some support. But regardless, I'm happy to see it because the deck definitely needed some support in order to round itself out. So Gaomon here has the nice on-play ability where both players get to draw one card from the top of their deck. I'm not a huge fan at giving the opponent resources, but I understand why that the ability is the way it is, just because Gaomon is a deck that wants to revolve around the opponent having a specific hand count, and, well, this is just a way to be able to put the opponent into that hand count. I'm more a fan of bouncing their cards, but again, if they don't have anything to bounce, then some of our cards become harder to use, so this is trying to help shore up that weakness. Then, on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when your opponent's hand size increases by a card effect, then we get to gain 1 memory, which is pretty decent because we have ways of adding cards to the opponent's hand in this style of deck. Next up, we have Gaogamon. So this new version of Gaogamon has a nice when Digivolving ability where we get to bounce one of the opponent's level 3 Digimon back to their hand. Ideally, it's going to be one of their rookie floodgates or a card that they just hard played to try to help dig for some of their parts and pieces. But regardless, it's just, again, another way for us to be able to continuously add cards to the opponent's hand, which this is the type of effect that I'm really a big fan of. And this does combo very nicely with the Gaomon that we just saw, allowing us to then gain a memory for that transaction. Then he has another inheritable skill that's again doing the exact same thing, so as we're going up the ladder and adding cards into the opponent's hand, then we get more memory back, making our plays even more efficient. Next up, we have a new version of Mach Gaogamon. So this new version of Mach Gaogamon, again, has a nice when Digivolving ability to bounce one of the opponent's low-level Digimon back to their hand, so this time it's going to be a level 4 or lower. Then his inheritable ability is the main draw of this card, where when attacking once per turn, if the opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon, so that way we could be as aggressive with our level 6s as we possibly can. Next, we have a brand new version of Agumon. So Agumon obviously has a whole lot of alternative forms in a set that's, well, labeled alternative beings. It's no shock that we're going to be seeing multiple Agumon in the set. So this Agumon more specifically is in the color combination of red and yellow, which is in the Geo line, which is supporting the Marcus deck. So he's going to support that deck where he has this nice ability where at the start of the main phase, so this will trigger after our raising phase, so we can move him out to be able to gain the ability and benefit of if we control a red or yellow tamer, namely our Marcus, then we get to gain 1 memory, so this is a really nice card to be able to make some more powerful follow-up plays with just for moving him out of the raising area. Then, on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability to use in combination with our red and yellow tamers, where during your turn, once per turn, when your red or yellow tamer is suspended, a lot of them have very easy ways for us to suspend them, then we get to draw 1 card, adding to the deck's overall consistency. Next up, we have a new version of Geogreymon. So this new version of Geogreymon obviously wants to digivolve on top of Agumon in order to make himself as effective and efficient as we can possibly make him. Then he has that same start of main phase ability, where if we control a red or yellow tamer, then we get to gain 1 memory. So we could digivolve into the Agumon. If we don't feel like we need the Agumon, then we could digivolve him into a Geogreymon as we're trying to wait and find our plays. But either way, having redundancy on this type of ability just makes it so that we could choose when we want to move it out and still have access at this type of effect. Then its inheritable ability is literally what we just saw with the Agumon, so it's just another card to help with the overall consistency of the deck. Next up, we have a brand new version of Rise Greymon. So this brand new version of Rise Greymon obviously wants to digivolve on top of a Geo Greymon for 3 to make it a little bit more efficient versus the 4 that it costs normally. And then he has a nice Wind Digivolving ability that's really supporting the more Marcus style of approach the deck has adopted since the last set, just because his Wind Digivolving ability states that one of the opponent's Digimon and all of the opponent's security Digimon get minus 4,000 DP until the end of the turn. So this is acting as some good low-level removal, while also making it easier for your Marcus to live through the opponent's security through that DP reduction. Then the inheritable ability is kind of mirroring what his Wind Digivolving ability is doing. So it's during your turn, once per turn, when your red or yellow tamers become suspended, namely your Marcus attacking, then one of the opponent's Digimon and all of the opponent's security Digimon get minus 4,000 DP until the end of the turn. So again, it's just a really good card to combo with the Marcus style deck. Next up, we got the level 5s to the Alter S deck. So the Alter S deck, it wants to be a black deck, and it's kind of been doing something similar to what the red purple Imperial Dramon deck is doing, where it wants to basically just digivolve the 2 Digimon all the way up at the same time in order to end on your big powerful Digimon. So the level 5 where Garurumon here has the blocker ability native to him, and on top of that, he has a nice Wind Digivolving ability where we get to digivolve one of your other Digimon into a Digimon from our hand that's level 6 or lower with Greymon in its name by paying its Digivolution cost, and then when we would digivolve using this ability, we get to reduce the Digivolution cost by 2, and he has the inheritable skill of Blocker, so this pairs nicely with the reboot that we just saw off of their level 4s, and it's just a good card to use, again, for the deck to try to climb as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can with both of our stacks. And then, obviously, the Metal Greymon is going to do the exact same thing, except it's looking and digivolving our Garurumons, so that way, again, we could try to form this evolution chain where we're digivolving both Digimon simultaneously all the way up our stages, so that way we could end on our big powerful Digimon, and the shared abilities of Blocker and inheritable skill of Blocker, again, is just to make our Digimon as consistent and powerful as we could possibly make it, in case we want to use it with other cards. Next up, we have a brand new version of Agumon Expert. So Agumon Expert is going to be doing something kind of similar to what we saw with Fake Agumon Expert, where he has an ability that triggers during the opponent's turn. So during the opponent's turn, once per turn, when an opponent plays a Digimon, by revealing a Digimon card of the same level as the Digimon card that was just played, then we get to place that card on the top of our security stack face down. So it's just a really interesting way to be able to have some extra recovery for whatever deck you're going to be putting him in, as long as you know that the opponent is going to be meeting that condition. Next up, we got some more Blue Flare support in the form of a brand new Greymon. So this brand new Greymon is a pretty decent card just because he's going to be acting again as another searcher to try to make the Blue Flare deck as consistent as it possibly can. So it has the on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add a Kiriha and a blue or black card with a Digicross condition from among them into our hand, and then trash the rest with the on-delete ability of save and a simple when attacking inheritable ability, allowing us to be able to draw a card. So it's just a decent card to think about including inside of the Blue Flare. And continuing on with some more Blue Flare support, we got a new version of Male Birdramon. So it's really nice to see that we got more versions of these cards to, again, try to make the Blue Flare deck as consistent and powerful as we can possibly make it. So he has the on-play ability where until the end of the opponent's turn, one of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest level gains the following effect of when attacking losing 2 memory, which is pretty good at trying to anti-tempo the opponent and de-incentivizing them from wanting to use their Digimon, which is what Blue Flares kind of wants to do, so that way we could try to stun lock their Digimon and to keep them on the field and make their Digimon as useless as possible. Then he has the on-delete ability of save himself, and he even has the inheritable ability of jamming, so it's just a good generic tool for the deck to think about adopting. And then rounding out what was spoiled in terms of the Blue Flare support, we have a new version of Metal Greymon. So this new version of Metal Greymon has an on-play ability where it gains Rush until the end of the turn, just like the other one, and then if we Digicrossed this card, then we get to choose one of the opponent's Digimon with Digivolution sources and trash 2 of them, so that way the deck has its own built-in way to actively try to remove inheritable sources to line up with the other Metal Greymon. Then he also has Material Save 2, so that way we can protect our Digimon that's going to be underneath them, so we could reuse them over and over again. And he even has his own Digicross 2, that's the exact same as the old one, so ideally we're going to be hard playing him for 3, with the combination of Greymon and Male Bergermon, which is just pretty decent for a level 5 Digimon. And then, unlike the old Metal Greymon, this new Metal Greymon actually does have an inheritable skill for us to use of when attacking. If this Digimon is Grey Knightsmon, one of the opponent's Digimon with 3 or less Digivolution sources can't attack until the end of the opponent's turn, which ideally this card just helps us set up. So we're going to hard play this card, then Digivolve him into a Grey Knightsmon to be able to utilize Grey Knightsmon better. And if you're unfamiliar with who Grey Knightsmon is, I included a little image of him, and he's basically just a Dark Knightmon mixed with the Metal Greymon. And then the last card from the set that we got spoiled is going to be a brand new version of Victory Greymon. So this brand new version of Victory Greymon is doing something very similar to the old one, where he has a nice Wind Digivolving ability to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 6,000 or less DP. So the other time we saw Victory Greymon, this was on a Digiburst ability and it was 8,000 DP, but this one's a little bit better than that, just because he gets to keep his inheritable sources, and his Wind Digivolving ability also has a nice upside to it, where for each of your opponent's Digimon, we get to add 2,000 to the maximum DP of the threshold this Digimon's able to delete. So at worst, with one Digimon, it's going to be deleting 8,000 already, which is on par with the old one, but the more Digimon they have, the stronger this removal type of ability becomes towards whatever single target Digimon we're going to be deleting. But he also has a nice secondary ability, where during all turns once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, if we have a Tamer in play, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, so it allows us to delete multiple targets at the same time, and if the opponent is trying to aggress into us and their Digimon does get deleted during security checks, then that'll also trigger this ability. So it's also a really good card for the opponent to have to worry about if they have a wide field of Digimon, especially when attacking into our security, if they're unable to deal with this card. But as far as the last 2 cards that we got spoiled, they're going to be brand new promos in the form of Ghost Game Megas. So we already saw that Gamamon got his Mega in the form of Siriusmon, and, well, now the other 2 main characters from Ghost Games get their Megas here. So I don't necessarily know if or when these are going to come into the anime, but regardless, they're still pretty interesting cards to try to help round out their respective decks. So first up, we have Amphibimon. So Amphibimon is going to be the level 6 for Jellymon, and it has a nice Wind Digivolving ability, where we get to trash up to 3 blue cards from our hand, and then for every card trashed by this effect, we get to choose to trash 1 card from the bottom of one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers. So that's actually pretty decent, because Tamers with inheritable sources is something we really didn't have any interaction with outside of just deleting the Tamers, so we have more ways to be able to interact with it, which is pretty nice. And then until the end of the opponent's turn, one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers with no cards underneath them can't suspend, so it keeps them from wanting to utilize some of their abilities, because a lot of their abilities, at least on the Tamer side, require them to suspend in order to do something. So this is just a pretty good card at just shutting off some of the opponent's Tamers and Digimon's abilities. Then on top of that, its secondary ability states that during the opponent's turn, once per turn, when your opponent's Digimon attacks by returning 3 cards with Jellymon in their text from our trash to the bottom of our deck, then we can end the attack. So this is just a really good card to just try to shove our Jellymons into the trash, sit on this card, and shut off the opponent's potential aggro. So I think this is actually a pretty decent card, especially for how the Jellymon deck wants to play, where it's focused a lot on quick low-level attacks, trying to discard as many cards as we possibly can and draw as many cards as we possibly can, and this just seems like a really good finisher to end on for that style of deck. And then the last card that we got spoiled in last promo is going to be Darbeatmon. So Dire Beatsmon is the most boring out of all of the Ghost Game megas, at least the ones that we currently have, and, well, it's just doing something not super spicy or original for what a green card is going to do. So its when Digivolving ability just suspends 2 of the opponent's Digimon, which feeds into its secondary ability, where during all turns, once per turn, when one of your Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives, if this Digimon has Angoramon in its Digivolution source, then we get to unsuspend one of our Digimon. Doesn't necessarily specify which Digimon we can unsuspend, which is, I guess, the interesting part, but ideally, we're just going to Digivolve into this card, suspend the opponent's Digimon down, beat it up, unsuspend this, do it again. So it's, again, just very bland and unoriginal, but it's still pretty decent for how the Angoramon deck wants to play, because that's kind of just the thing that Angoramon's been doing, is just trying to beat up the opponent's Digimon and suspend them down, similar to green decks of old. So Angoramon seems to be getting the shaft yet again, just based on how his deck wants to play. But yeah, that's all the spoilers that we have this week, and the set seems to be looking like a pretty okay set as a whole, as of right now. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.